Hello everyone and welcome to my 12th Pokemon Challenge run. Before we get too far into the video, I wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you that have been so supportive of my content recently. We recently hit 300 subs, so I just wanted to say thank you all so very much for the support. It means the absolute world to me. For those of you that may be new viewers, I'd like you guys to know that I'm trying really hard to create quality content on a weekly basis. If you have any ideas or like seeing my content, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can keep up with all of my future videos. Anyways, on with the challenge. Today we seek to answer, can you beat Pokemon Emerald with only a Mudkip? Let's quickly cover the rules so we can begin. Rule number 1, no glitches, hacks, or cheats. I do, however, use speed up, otherwise these videos would take far longer to produce and I'd rather produce them quickly. Rule number 2, I can only use one Pokemon in battle. However, because I am not cheating, I do need to use HM Pokemon for travel purposes only. And lastly, rule number 3, no items in battle. This doesn't include held items, as I use Everstones during some runs, and so other held items are also allowed if necessary. With all of that out of the way, let's begin. This run is somewhat similar to the Torchic run, where we're looking for mixed damage instead of throwing all of our stats into one damage type. We're going to be training up our attack, special attack, and speed stats, so I decided that we should get a nature that buffs the weakest of these three stats. I settled with a hasty Mudkip, ensuring that we won't be hurt too badly by our low speed stat growth. After getting our hasty nature Mudkip, we then head over to battle May in our first rival fight. Trico is pretty easy to handle, we just trade tackles and pounds until we win. From here, we finally get into grinding. We're going to be using the same exact grinding setup that we used in the Torchic video. We knock out 168 Poochyena, and collectively 168 of both Zigzagoon and Wingull on Route 102 for all of our attack and speed EVs. Then, we head over to Route 116 while avoiding as many fights as possible to knock out 168 Abra for our special attack EVs. With our EVs cemented for the rest of the run, we're ready to take on Roxanne. Roxanne is a pushover, really. Mudkip basically turned into a 60,000 PSI water jet, one-shotting both of Roxanne's Geodude and her Nosepass with 3 quick water guns. After earning our first badge, we enter our second battle against May. May leads with her Wingull, which we're almost able to knock out with a single water gun, but need to follow up with a tackle on the next turn to take it down. Trico is May's last Pokemon, which we hit with a tackle for more than half health while it uses Absorb. On the following turn, we tackle again to knock it out. We're sent to Dewford. While we're there, we challenge Brawly to a battle. He leads with Machop, which we one-shot with Water Gun. Brawly sends out his Meditite next, which we hit with Water Gun while it uses Bulk Up. We then hit it twice with Water Gun while Brawly heals up twice, but on our third Water Gun, we finally take down Meditite. Makuhita is Brawly's last Pokemon, which we hit with Water Gun before it hits us back with Vital Throw. Makuhita eats a berry, which means that our next Water Gun falls just short of knocking it out, letting Makuhita use Bulk Up. On the following turn, one more Water Gun takes down the Makuhita. Our path to the third gym is stopped by May, who leads with her Wingull. A single tackle is enough to take down the poor Burb. Grovyle is May's next Pokemon, which we tackle for more than half health while it uses Absorb. On the following turn, we take it down with another tackle. May's last Pokemon is her Slugma, which we one-shot with Water Gun. We get to Mauville, where we have a very short battle with Wally for the first time. We quickly one-shot his Ralts with Tackle, sending Wally on his way. Watson is our next opponent, who is pretty scary since we're a pure water type. Watson leads with Voltorb, who we hit with Mudslap but failed to knock out, meaning we get hit with Shockwave. Watson then heals Voltorb, but we're able to take it down with 2 more Mudslap. Electrike is sent out next, which we hit with Mudslap while it howls. On the following turn, another Mudslap takes it down. Magneton follows Electrike, which we obliterate with another Mudslap. Watson's last Pokemon is Manectric, who we outspeed with Mudslap, causing it to miss with Thunder Wave. Watson then heals and we Mudslap again, but then we're out of power for Mudslap and resort to using Water Gun. We're then hit with Thunder Wave, meaning that Manectric can outspeed us on the following turn with Shockwave. However, we power through the Paralyze and land another Water Gun, beating the Manectric and winning our third gym badge. We then head up Mount Chimney and battle Magma Admin Tabitha, and just like with Roxanne, Mudkip again becomes a 60,000 PSI water jet, one-shotting Tabitha's first Numel with Water Gun, then Tabitha's Poochyena, then his Zubat, and lastly his second Numel. After making Tabitha experience true fear, we challenge Team Magma's boss, Maxie. Maxie leads with Mightyena, who we hit with Water Gun while it uses Sand Attack against us. On the following turn, we knock it out with another Water Gun. Following the Mightyena is Zubat, who we fail to knock out with Water Gun, and it hits us with Supersonic. Maxie then Super Potions twice, but we power through the Confusion twice to take down the Zubat. Maxie's last Pokemon is his Camerupt, which we easily dismiss with Water Gun. Flannery is the next gym leader we've got to fight, so we challenge her immediately. Flannery leads with her Numel, who we hit with Water Gun for the one-shot. Flannery then sends out her Slugma, which we also blast with Water Gun. Camerupt is up next, which is yet another one-shot thanks to Water Gun. Torkoal is Flannery's last Pokemon, which we hit with Water Gun for a huge amount of damage while Torkoal uses Sunny Day. On the following turn, Flannery uses a Hyper Potion and we hit again with Water Gun. Now, I didn't know whether or not this Torkoal knows Solar Beam, but I wasn't going to find out, so we blast it with Hydro Pump to knock it out easily. Norman is next up on our Gym Leader Challenge list. He leads with Spinda, who we hit with Water Gun for roughly half health while it hits us with Facade. On the following turn, we get a crit Water Gun and knock out the Spinda. Following Spinda is Vigoroth, who we outspeed with Return but sadly fail to one-shot, meaning that we're hit with Slash. Norman then heals and we hit twice with Return to knock out the Vigoroth. Up next is Linoone, which is thankfully a one-shot with Return. Norman's last Pokemon is his Slacking, which we use Dig against to take advantage of its Truant ability. We use Dig 4 times and then hit it with a Hydro Pump to knock it out. Our next stop is the Weather Institute, where we've got to take care of Shelly. Shelly leads with Carvanha, which we one-shot with a crit Surf. Following Carvanha is Mightyena, Shelly's last Pokemon, who we also one-shot with Surf. With the Weather Institute freed from Team Aqua's takeover, we've got another rival battle with May. She leads with Slugma, who we one-shot with Surf. Following Slugma is Grovyle, which we take out very easily thanks to Ice Beam. May's last Pokemon is her Lombre, which stalls us with a Fake Out. On the following turn, we take it out with a single Return. Since we had gone out of our way earlier to acquire Ice Beam, I figured we could take on Winona without too much trouble. Winona leads with her Swablu, which we one-shot with Ice Beam. Following the Swablu is Trompius, who is yet another one-shot with Ice Beam. After Trompius is Pelipper, who we fail to one-shot with Return, but it thankfully misses with Supersonic. On the next turn, Winona heals, and we get 2 returns in to take down the Pelipper. Skarmory is Winona's next Pokemon, who we hit with Surf for a huge chunk of damage while it hits us with Sand Attack. Winona then heals while we go for another Surf. We then try to finish off Skarmory with another Surf, but we miss, meaning that Skarmory can hit us with Aerial Ace. On the next turn, we land Surf again and take Skarmory out. Winona's last Pokemon is her Altaria, which we one-shot with Ice Beam. Lily Cove isn't that much further ahead of our next objective, so that's where we go for our last rival battle with May. May leads with her Trompius, which we one-shot with Ice Beam. Following the Trompius is Grovyle, who we also one-shot with Ice Beam. Slugma is up next, which we knock out with Surf. May's last Pokemon is her Pelipper, who blocks our first return with Protect, but we land the second and get hit with Supersonic. On the following turn, we power through the confusion and land Return again, taking down May for the final time. Team Magma is causing trouble again, so while we're dealing with them, we run into Tabitha again. Tabitha leads with Numel, who we one-shot with Surf. Mightyena is up next, who is another one-shot with Surf. Following the Mightyena is Zubat, who we take out with Ice Beam. Tabitha's last Pokemon is his Camerupt, who we one-shot with a crit Surf. With Tabitha taken care of so easily, I expect Maxie to be no different. Maxie leads with his Mightyena, who we one-shot with Surf. Up next is Crobat, who outspeeds us with Supersonic, but we push through the confusion and one-shot with Ice Beam. Maxie's last Pokemon is Camerupt, who uses Amnesia while we hit ourselves. On the following turn, we one-shot with Surf. Archie very quickly steals a submarine, and suddenly we're facing off against Matt in Team Aqua's hideout. Matt leads with Mightyena, who we one-shot with Surf. Matt's last Pokemon is his Golbat, who we one-shot with Ice Beam. I said in the last video that I would be using Magikarp for future Tate and Liza battles, so I ended up catching a Magikarp specifically for this fight. Tate and Liza lead off with Xatu and Claydol, who we hit with Surf for roughly half health on each. Xatu smites my Magikarp with a Psychic, and Claydol hits us with an Earthquake. On the following turn, we Surf again, taking down the Claydol, but just falling short of taking out the Xatu. Solrock is sent out, and then Xatu slaps us with a Psychic. Xatu is then healed up, but we surf again, one-shotting the Soul Rock and getting the Xatu low again. On the following turn, we surf again to take out both the Xatu and the Lunatone. The next battle we find ourselves in is yet another double battle against Tabitha and Maxie. They lead with Camerupt and Mightyena, who we surf to one-shot the Camerupt. Maxie's Mightyena scary faces us while Matang sets up a light screen. On the next turn, Maxie's Mightyena swaggers Matang, which results in Matang knocking out Maxie's Mightyena. Tabitha's Mightyena also decides to swagger Matang, something that would prove to be very bad for them later. We surf again, bringing Mightyena low and doing about half health to Crobat. Crobat hits us with a wing attack and Matang hits itself before we surf again, taking out the Mightyena. Tabitha sends out his Golbat while Crobat hits us with a mean look, but Matang one-shots the Golbat thanks to all of the attack boosts from Swagger, and then we finish off the Crobat with an Ice Beam. Maxie's last Pokemon is his Camerupt, who Matang hits with Metaclaw before we finish it off with Surf. Maxie vows to stop causing us problems, so we head out to find Team Aqua. We find them at the bottom of the ocean, but Shelly insists on annoying us before we can proceed. Shelly leads with her Sharpedo, which we one-shot with Surf. Mightyena is sent out next, who we also one-shot with Surf. Archie steps out of the shadows and challenges us to a battle after we take a quick peek at the best Hoenn Legendary. Archie leads with his Mightyena, who we one-shot with Surf. Next up is Crobat, who we one-shot with Ice Beam. Archie's last Pokemon is Sharpedo, who we almost one-shot with Surf, but were hit with Swagger in return. Archie heals twice while we hit ourselves in Confusion twice, almost knocking ourselves out, but we managed to land one last Surf to take down the Sharpedo. Even though we won, Archie ends up waking up Kyogre anyways, resulting in a cataclysmic territorial dispute in Sutapala City. Guided by the awe-inspiring wisdom of Wallace, who had no idea where Rayquaza even was, we head to the Sky Pillar. Upon reaching the top, we witness Rayquaza waking up on its own, like a vengeful parent who has been disturbed from their nap. Then Rayquaza flies off and tells the other two legendaries to shut up before going back to the Sky Pillar and going back to sleep. Our last gym battle is against Juan, who for some reason keeps a ton of women trainers locked up in his basement. Juan leads with Love Disc, who we one-shot with Return. Juan's next Pokemon is his Whiscash, which we hit with Return while it uses Amnesia. On the following turn, Juan heals, so we hit Whiscash with 2 more Return to take it down. After Whiscash is Celio, who we beat up with Return before it hits us with Body Slam. On the next turn, another Return takes out Celio. Crawdon is up next, who we hit with a crit Return for the one-shot. Juan's last Pokemon is his Kingdra, which I'm still mad at over the whole debacle in the Torchic video. We hit Kingdra with Return for half health while it hits us with Water Pulse. On the following turn, we hit it with another Return to take it down. As we're making our way through Victory Road, Wally stops us for a rematch. He leads with his Altaria, which we crit Ice Beam for the one-shot. Magneton is up next, who we use Dig against, dodging a Supersonic before taking it out with a crit on the following turn. Roselia is Wally's next Pokemon, who we're able to one-shot with an Ice Beam. Delcatty is up next, and we decide to risk Cute Charm nonsense by using Return. Thankfully, we one-shot it with ease. Wally's last Pokemon is his Gardevoir, which we almost knock out with Return while it uses Future Sight. On the following turn, Wally heals up, but we crit with Return for the one-shot. We finish leveling up and then take on the Elite Four, starting with Sydney. Sydney leads with Mightyena, which we one-shot with Surf. Up next is Cacturne, who we one-shot with Ice Beam. Following Cacturne is Shiftry, who we also one-shot with Ice Beam. After Shiftry is Crawdon, who we hit with Return while it uses Swords Dance. Sydney heals up on the following turn, so we hit it again with Return. Sydney then heals again, but this time we're able to hit twice with Return to take it down. Sydney's last Pokemon is his Absol, who we're able to one-shot with 1 more Return. Phoebe is up next, who I was a bit worried about due to Dusclops' pressure nonsense. Phoebe leads with her first Dusclops, which protects against our first Surf, but fails the second, where we one-shot it. Phoebe's first Bayonet is up next, who we one-shot with Surf. Phoebe then sends out her second Bayonet, who we crit Surf for another one-shot. Next up is Sableye, who is yet another one-shot with Surf. Phoebe's last Pokemon is her second Dusclops, which we also one-shot with Surf. Glacia is the third of the Elite Four, and I was a bit worried about her too, since she has some chonky Pokemon. Glacia leads with Celio, who we're able to take out easily with Return. Next up is Glacia's first Glalie, which we're also able to knock out with another Return. Glacia then sends out her second Celio, who is, you guessed it, another one-shot with Return. Glacia then sends out her second Glalie, and I'm guessing you know what happens here, another one-shot with Return. Last up is Glacia's Walrein, who is the only Pokemon on Glacia's team that we don't one-shot. It hits us back with Body Slam and eats a berry, but on the following turn we take it down with one last Return. Drake is the last of the Elite Four, who I wasn't afraid of at all. He leads with Shelgon, who protects against our Ice Beam. On the following turn we manage to land Ice Beam for a one-shot. After Shelgon is Drake's Altaria, who is another one-shot with Ice Beam. Following the Altaria is Kingdra, who we hit with Return for a huge amount of damage, but sadly not a one-shot. Kingdra hits us with Smokescreen and then Drake heals, but we hit another Return on the following turn. We then miss a Return while Kingdra uses Dragon Dance, but we still outspeed it and take it out with a Return on the next turn. Drake then sends out his Flygon, who we outspeed with Ice Beam for the one-shot. Drake's last Pokemon is his Salamence, who we also outspeed for a one-shot with Ice Beam. We're finally at the end here with Wallace, and my plan here is to simply rely on Return. Shocker, I know. At this point, our attack stat was our highest stat somehow. I have no idea how that happened, but thankfully it came in clutch. Wallace leads with Wailord, who we crit with Return for a one-shot. Ludicolo is up next, who we also one-shot with Return. Wallace's next Pokemon is his Tentacruel, and somehow we were also able to knock that out without a crit. Wallace then sends out his Milotic, who we beat up with Return, but it hits us with Surf. Milotic then eats a berry and Wallace full restores, so we hit it with another Return to take it back down. We repeat this 2 more times before Wallace runs out of full restores, at least I thought. At this point, I was worried about running out of returns for Gyarados and figured that Wallace was done healing, so I went for a dig against Milotic. It then used Recover. I was in shambles. Dig hit but didn't knock out, so it used Recover again. I then used one last Return to take it down. Wallace then sends out his Wishgash, who we hit with Return for huge damage while it uses Amnesia. On the following turn, we go for Surf to preserve Return power, but Wallace had another full restore hiding somewhere and healed up again. On the following turn, we hit it with a Return and knock it out. Wallace's last Pokemon is his Gyarados, which we hit with Return for half health while it uses Dragon Dance. On the following turn, we hit it with one last Return of the run and finally beat Wallace. This run was very, very easy. The only time I really needed to grind was for Tate and Liza, and that was because for some reason my special attack stat ended up being lower than my attack stat. I've got no idea why that would be unless I messed up my EV training somehow, which I don't think I did. Outside of that, this run was very, very fun. Water-type starters are fun for these challenges since we gain access to Surf, which is incredibly powerful. This run-through of the Elite Four was probably the easiest I've had out of all of our challenges so far, barring that annoying Milotic stall, at least. The final time for this run was 41 hours and 9 minutes, which is roughly 9 minutes faster than the Trico run. I believe the reason the 2 runs are so close together in time is because of the special attack EV training that we did for Mudkip, which took a lot longer than what we did for Trico. Anyways, I stream this run over on Twitch, which I plan on doing weekly. Also, if you liked this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe as it would help me out a lot. If you'd like, feel free to leave a comment to let me know how you feel about the video, since I love seeing what you guys think about my content. If you're interested in coming and hanging out, please feel free to follow the link below to either my Twitch, my Discord, or my Twitter if that platform is still around when you're watching this video. This has been Shro, and thank you for watching.